I'm Andy and welcome to my channel about crypto. In today's video, I want to talk about something that probably everyone, almost everyone who's into crypto is interested in, and that's how to hit those amazing returns, sort of 50x gains, 100x gains, or even more. And I think there is one really big misconception about how those results are achieved. I mean, of course, there are different ways of doing it. And what a lot of people are trying to do is just trying to hit that one perfect project. But there are different ways you can do it. And that's what I want to focus on in this video. As always, if you like those videos, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And also, if you would like to learn more about crypto, NFTs, and Web3, please check out my course, Crypto Like a Pro. You can find the link to it in the description. You can often hear about those amazing profits that can be made in crypto, those 50x or 100x returns. And of course, there are quite a few opportunities around like this. Let's say Cardano. If you got into it in late 2019, you could get it for around 3 cents. So for example, in mid-December 2019, it was just over 3 cents. And then it peaked around $3 in late 2021. So basically in a space of 2 years, you could make a 100x gain on that particular token. But what's quite tricky here is that, well, first of all, you have to be really, really early. And the problem is that if you're really early, well, you have to wait a long time before anything will happen, right? You have to have the patience and the conviction in that particular project that essentially it's worth holding it for a couple of years. And right now, people may be quite bullish about Bitcoin or Ether and have some trust that those tokens eventually will pick up in value again. But of course, they won't do 100x gains or 50x gains, or to be honest, even 10x gains. It's probably pushing it a little bit. So to get those huge profits, you have to invest very, very early. And then, well, first of all, you have to wait a long time. Second, you have to also think about what will happen when the price will actually start going up, right? Because it's really easy to say that, oh, if I knew I could have just put like $1,000 into Cardano in late 2019 and then just hold it for a couple of years and then make 100 grand out of it. Well, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but that's the problem. You don't know what's going to happen. And even when the price starts going up, let's say that you did put that $1,000 when the price was roughly 3 cents. And then this first pump here happens and it goes up to around $1. So suddenly your $1,000 is now worth $30,000. Are you still going to hold it? When the price is going up, maybe you will, but if you start seeing pullbacks, and there were quite decent pullbacks here, then of course we had this amazing spike here and then a massive pullback in the summer of 2021. Well, how will you feel when suddenly that $1,000 grows to that really huge amount of money, right? I think it's really easy to say that, oh, I will just hold it. But the reality is that you will be probably taking money out on the way up. And to be honest, it's a perfectly sensible strategy. So it makes much more sense to try to break it down into some smaller chunks. And also, you are here betting on just one project. If this project performs, great. But a lot of projects may not necessarily move fully in line with the rest of the market. For example, Cardano peaked here in September 2021 before the massive peak we had in this bull run, because Bitcoin peaked in early November, so full 2 months later. I think Ether peaked roughly around the same time, maybe a little bit later in November. A lot of gaming coins peaked in late November or even December, and many other projects as well. NFTs then didn't peak until like January, February. So this was actually a very early peak, which was driven largely by Cardano releasing or launching smart contracts on its mainnet. So basically it was a typical buy the rumor, sell the news event. And then it just crashed massively. I mean, if you look at early November, somewhere here, that was Bitcoin's peak, and Cardano was already almost, around 30% down, just over 30% down. So it wasn't exactly moving in line with the market. So if you have all your eggs in one basket, well, if you misjudge the situation, then it's quite easy to lose potential profits. There are plenty of other examples. I mean, same thing could be said about Axie Infinity. You could get into it in early 2021, something like January, around 80 cents, 80, 90 cents. And then it went up to $160 or more within like 6 or 7 months. But again, would you actually hold it through all of those spikes in price? I mean, actually it peaked in the middle of overall crypto bear market. Actually, wait a second, I got my dates mixed up because they're in American format. I'm in the UK, so I'm used to months and days being the other way around. So sorry, it peaked in November, but nonetheless, that was like potentially 100x profit in a space of about 10, 11 months. But on the way to that peak, you had this massive run up here. So again, if you started around 80 cents, let's say, in early 2021, well, by July, late July, that was $45. So that's already like over 50 times gain. Then you had another spike here, almost vertical line up to $63, $64. Then quite a bit of a pullback, then this massive spike. I mean, at this point, it would be perfectly sensible to cash out. You don't have to hold it all the way to the perfect peak. I mean, it's highly unlikely that you will hit it anyway. But I hope you see what I mean. It's really difficult to know where that peak is going to be, and it's really easy to cash out early. So what I think is much better strategy is trying to not necessarily time perfectly peaks and bottoms, because that's highly unlikely. I mean, you may be able to do it once, but that's probably about it. You won't be able to do it 2, 3, 5 times in a row. But rather than that, look at making consistent gains by investing in a few projects and just keep rolling your profits. So if we look at Bitcoin, well, now is, in my opinion, is the perfect time to get into Bitcoin. Of course, nothing is certain in crypto, nothing is certain in investing, and we are in very uncertain times in general. But we are now in a similar phase of the market. We were somewhere here in 2018, right? So, well, of course, in 2018, it was a long bear market. Now, it hasn't been quite this long. I guess you could say that we are somewhere around here. But what used to be approximately $6,000 Bitcoin is now approximately $20,000 Bitcoin. And what we are seeing now, this phase when the Bitcoin is, well, hovering around 20K, will eventually be like this phase right here, right? So we will eventually have this another huge spike. I don't think it will be quite as big as it was in this case. I mean, from the previous bull market top to the last year's bull market top, we had about 3.5 times gain, from roughly $20,000 to roughly $70,000. I think we can probably expect about 2 times gain, maybe a little bit more in the next bull market. So that would be from 70,000 to about 140, maybe slightly higher than that. But if we assume that around 140,000 is reasonable, well, that would still mean approximately 7 times gain from the current price, maybe even more. But what I wanted to show you is, if let's say you were investing in Bitcoin somewhere here, somewhere around $6,000, $7,000, doesn't really matter exactly what price. I mean, of course, there were moments when you could get it for around $3,500, but I'm not talking here about hitting those perfect bottoms or perfect peaks. You keep DCAing into Bitcoin at those levels, then it goes up in price, and peaked here in April. I think it was 14th or 16th of April. Approximately $63,000. So you could potentially make already 10x gain if you were accumulating at around 6,000. But that's not the most important thing. Let's say that you are cashing out somewhere here on this way up. I mean, when you see parabolic move up like this, it's definitely a sensible thing to take at least some of your profits out. So you could take your profits out somewhere here on the way up. And then let's see what will happen with Ethereum. So Bitcoin peaked in mid-April. Ethereum peaked in early May, 9th of May. And in mid-April, it was approximately $2,000. So from this price, it still went up almost exactly 2x within a space of like the next 2 or 3 weeks. So you could roll your profits, let's say, even if you made like 5 or 6 time gain on Bitcoin rather than 10x gain. You could roll that profit. So let's say you started with $1,000 in Bitcoin. Then you turn that into $6,000 or $7,000 during that bull run. Then you make another 2x. It doesn't have to be perfect 2x, roughly something like that, by rolling it into Ethereum. So you have maybe around, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15,000. And then Ethereum peaked on the 9th. If you look at something like, let's say, CDFI, I mean, of course, CDFI had the major peak in December, early December. But actually here in May, if we go back to it, so Ethereum peaked somewhere around, well, exactly here, when CDFI was $1.4. And then over the course of the next, literally like 4 days, it's almost quadrupled in price. So you could potentially catch some of this move up here. You could do or try to do something similar with Polygon. If you look at its price. So again, 9th of May was, there you go, somewhere here. So approximately $1. And then it went to almost $2.50. So that's approximately 2x gain. Altura, well, that moved up much later in the year, but the principle remains the same. I mean, if you catch it somewhere here, when the market cooled down a bit, around 4 cents, well, you could make approximately 10x on that as well. So what I'm trying to say here is that rather than trying to find this one unicorn project that will do 50x or 100x, it's probably easier to find 3 or 4 projects that will give you consistent, roughly 5x returns, right? Because all you need to do to hit 100x gain is find a project that will do 5x, then roll that into another 5x project, that's 5 times 5, 25, and then 4 times project, 25 times 4, that's 100. So that will still give you 100 times gain, but it's far more likely that you will find projects that will do 5x or 4x gains rather than one that will do 100x gain, right? And with a bit of luck, you may be also able to do it in a shorter time frame. You don't have to get into a project really early and then just wonder for months or potentially a couple of years whether it will actually amount to something or not. And the best thing about it is that you can actually start it with Bitcoin during this phase right now. Because if you want to put your money into crypto, if that's something you want to do, if it matches your risk tolerance, then Bitcoin is about as safe as anything can be in crypto. Nothing is certain, of course, but it's the most established cryptocurrency. So getting Bitcoin at roughly $20,000 is probably a pretty sensible thing to do if you want to get into crypto. So essentially you can get something that's relatively safe, that's relatively proven comparing to pretty much any other project in the crypto space. But at the same time, you're getting something that already has potential to go 5 to 7x times in the next crypto bull run. So this could be that first leg of your investment strategy, right? This first project, which you hope that will do roughly 5x gain. And you're doing this without risking into putting money in something completely unknown, unproven, untested, which may go up massively in value or it may not, because we don't know how the crypto bull run will look like in the next couple of years. It's reasonably safe to assume that Bitcoin will hit new all-time high. For many other projects, it's really difficult to predict what will happen. Of course, similar thing could be said about Ethereum. Ethereum can also do quite comfortably something between 5x and 10x, maybe even more. But there's pretty good chance that at least in the next few months, while Ethereum may gain value against dollar, most likely it will not gain value against Bitcoin. So it's still a sensible thing to do to get into Bitcoin first and then roll those profits into other tokens. And then one final thing, which I think is really good about this strategy, is the fact that you're not putting all that money into just one project and waiting for that project to moon. You are rolling your profits, which means that you also have a bit of time to sort of get used to dealing with larger and larger amount of money, right? So you start with, let's say, $1,000 in Bitcoin. Over time, that grows up in value to, let's say, 5,000, 7,000, whatever. Then you roll that into the next project, or maybe even you split it between a couple of projects. And it's not quite then the same thing waiting for that 7,000 to turn into, let's say, I don't know, 25 or 30,000 or whatever, than starting with 1,000 and seeing this go all the way up in the same project from like 1,000 all the way up to 30,000. Because when you see those parabolic moves up, well, they are great when they happen, but what goes up must come down, right? So you have to be prepared, and when you see this move up, well, the higher it goes, the higher the likelihood that it will eventually crash. So again, it's much safer, and also it's much easier to deal with it on a psychological level when you see this sort of 3x, 5x gain rather than 30x, 50x and more. So of course, it's safe to assume that in the next market cycle, things will not play out exactly the same in terms of how Bitcoin price will move or how other tokens will then move against Bitcoin. But it's the principle I wanted to show you. It doesn't matter whether you start now with Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything else. It doesn't then matter whether you roll it into, I don't know, whatever other token. I mean, arguably, you could then roll it into maybe Cardano, maybe CDFI, maybe something else. That's not really relevant. Essentially, you have to pick the tokens based on what you are interested in, based on the projects you researched, and based on your conviction, what's likely to go up in value. But I hope the part of the strategy where you just sort of break it down to smaller chunks and try to find those smaller gains rather than one huge project, I hope that part makes sense. As always, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. And other than that, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.